This is Marianne Marlowe of This Love Works, and I want to talk today about how couples share power and control in their relationships. One of the things that's really important to remember is you are not the boss at home. What does it mean to have a CEO mentality or an entrepreneurial mentality? That's really critical for you to use in the workplace and in the workplace relationships, but does it translate to home? And how do you negotiate with your spouse about how to make really important decisions at home? A lot of times it's hard for us to take that hat off from our work environment and switch gears to the home environment. And oftentimes it creates some really difficult challenges about how to negotiate simple things like how do couples get to be in the house by themselves. One of the things that came up a lot when we were dealing with the pandemic was that couples were thrown into being together in kind of a forced way, right? We were all brought into the home, even we with kids or some couples that were just together, but that was not a natural way for people to be in a living situation. And so it created a lot of challenges because a large part of the pandemic, we were actually in inclement weather for many of our environments. So what do couples do that helps them to navigate how to have authority and power and control in the relationship? Who gives power and control? Who gets to make decisions? How do you make those decisions? And oftentimes we slip into roles in our relationships that we are not necessarily explicit about. And I think it's really important to remember that as we grow and develop as a couple, and as we grow and develop as humans, we oftentimes need to renegotiate the same kinds of agreements that have been in our relationship for quite some time. So we need to do regular check-ins with our person. Oftentimes this can happen during an anniversary month, or maybe you as a couple meet on a pretty regular basis to do date nights, but you might not be explicit about how to do a relationship check-in. And one of the things that I recommend is that you do it once a year. And you talk a little bit about some of the things that have come up for you that year. What are some of the goals that you have as a couple that year? Maybe you can even talk about what your individual goals are. Are there some things that need to be renegotiated? Roles, for instance. Maybe there are things that you want to address with a new child in the relationship, or maybe an empty nest, or maybe even bringing in a parent into your relationship. So it's very, very important that rather than allow some of the old agreements that you have made in your relationship to fester or to create problems, being very explicit with your partner about having a new agreement, having some new relationship goals, perhaps. And you can use something like the awareness wheel, which I will add to the chat. You can take a look at the awareness wheel, which is a really great tool to pay attention to staying in your lane while you very specifically talk about what it is that you want to renegotiate. And in the awareness wheel, there are 5 segments in the awareness wheel, and we can talk about them. One of the very first segments is the sensory segment, and this is the things that you see, sense, or feel. These are the 5 senses, right? And you might recognize that around a particular issue that your heartbeat goes up a little bit, or that your blood pressure increases. Sometimes when I'm feeling nervous, or I'm going to bring something up to my husband that we've had problems talking about, I feel a little bit elevated and maybe I sweat a little bit. Well, it's very important for me to have an understanding of what's going on inside for me, what is informing the way that I'm thinking or feeling, and what might I be observing in my partner, right? Do I recognize that my partner's eyes are dilated, or maybe I can see him sweating? So having a sensory understanding is very, very important. And oftentimes our bodies will tell us what's going on emotionally before we even recognize that. A second segment in on the wheel is the thinking segment, and that's all the things that happen in my brain. It's the thoughts that I have, it's the judgments I make, it's all of the mental influences that I have. And it's very important to be able to distinguish what my thoughts are from my feelings. And many times people use those things indistinguishably. So in other words, you might say, I feel that you are being unfair. Well, that's not really a feeling, it's a thought that you're being unfair. And when we interchange those, it can get very, very confusing. The third thing that we want to pay attention to are, what are my emotions? What am I emotionally experiencing about the thing that I want to talk to you about? Am I a little bit scared because this has created some conflict for us in the past? Am I excited to bring this idea to you, but I'm afraid that you might not be as receptive, right? So we're pretty good, those of us that are articulate in our experiences with our partners, we can usually get out what it is that I am experiencing in my five senses, what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. And a lot of times in our relationships, we kind of leave it there with our partner, right? Like you might go and you say, hey, I've been thinking about taking another job, which might require a move. And yeah, I'm feeling a little bit nervous about talking to you about that. We've mostly made moves that we shared, but this would be moving for me. And I'm thinking that might not really work for you. And so I'm a little bit nervous about bringing this idea to you because it's really important to me. And a lot of times that's where we leave it. But the two final segments of the awareness wheel are really critical for us to pay attention to. And those two segments are, what is it that I want? And how am I going to get it? What am I going to do in service of what I want? And so it's really important for us to be able to express, what is it that I want when I'm bringing this issue to you, right? Maybe I really want us to talk about a move. I'm really invested in this new job. I'm kind of excited about it. And I know you might not be, but I want us to talk about it. And so I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to check in with you to see if this is the right time to talk about it. And if it's not, I'm going to make an appointment to talk to you about it at another time. And I'm even going to gather some information about the place that we might move to, so that when we talk about it, I can give you some ideas about what really appeals to me about the new city or the new place that we might move to. So it really allows you to take responsibility to share power and control in the relationship. Because remember, when we do that, we allow our partner to know that they are really important to us. And that's what's going to help our love to work. Remember, you aren't the boss of me at home. This is Marianne Marlowe of This Love Works. See you soon.